Prevention is the key to a healthy life. That's why Gunderson Health encourages you to learn about vaccines and how they can help you and your loved ones stay healthy. Vaccines protect against preventable diseases and viruses by boosting your body's defenses. Visit GundersonHealthFacts.com to learn more. The Sandbars Storytelling Festival promotes the art of storytelling for all ages. Enjoy exciting performances throughout this 3-day festival, October 12th through the 14th in Winona, Minnesota. Find out why the returning headliner, Bill Lepp, is back by popular demand. Get your tickets at sandbarstorytellingfestival.org. We had the opportunity to engage in a conversation with Ben from PECO Studio. During our discussion, we delved into the fascinating world of glass art, gaining insight into the intricate technique of kiln-formed fused glass, and discovering profound influences that water, lava, and island life have on his work. Our conversation further delves into the intricate process of working with glass, exploring aspects such as color choices, the level of ease in handling the medium, and gaining a sneak peek into the exciting developments on the horizon for this talented artist. You can find more conversations on our website, lacrosselocal.com. I'm Amy.
And I'm Brent.
And this is Lacrosse Local.
I am Ben Richgruber. I was born in Sparta, Wisconsin, and I was led to glass because it was 2020 and we all had some extra time on our hands.
But have you always been art or into sculpture, or is this something you just wanted to pick up?
Well, it started, I have a degree in theater. So I started more on the performance side of things. That was an interest of mine. And then fast forward many years after graduating college, I ended up in Eau Claire at an art center. And that's where I really got a very deep understanding and appreciation of, probably more appreciation than understanding of, more visual arts. And there was a lot of great stuff going on there. And there were a couple of glass artists that are very well known internationally and nationally that live in Eau Claire. Lori Beasy is one of them. She did stained glass, and Steve Immerman does kiln form glass. So I'd seen it before, so it was sort of in the back of my head. But while I was in Eau Claire, I started playing in clay. Mel Sunby is a fantastic man, and he taught me how to throw pottery on the wheel. So I started playing with clay a little bit, and that was good for a couple of years. And then I ended up moving to Hawaii. And once COVID hit, I wanted to make something, but I couldn't. I didn't take my wheel or kiln or anything with me when I went. So I had some time on my hands, and I ended up taking a pottery class in Hilo, downtown Hilo, Hawaii. And it was good, but it didn't quite scratch the itch. I kind of wanted to try something else. So I was walking through one of the galleries downtown, and they had some glass in there. And I asked the gallery owner, I said, does anyone teach glass around here? Are there, workshops for it or anything? And she said, no, I don't think so. But she was kind enough to send an email out to the different glass artists that were there saying, hey, this dude's interested. If you want to help him, here's his number. And Rachel Baker called me back and said, yeah, come on up. And she was a professor at the university, I think still is, and a rocket scientist doing math, but she was also doing glass. So she was a great teacher too. So she knew everything about glass, and she knew the science and the technology behind it that you need to know if you're going to do glass. So she was really she was full of information and a good teacher as well. So she took me under her wing, and I got to be her apprentice for a while. And really from day one, I was hooked. So I bought a kiln and spent a whole bunch of money on glass and tools and supplies, and I'm in deep, man.
I'm in deep. So to me, when I think of kiln, maybe you could get a refresher on this kind of fused glass, kiln formed. I think when people think glass, they automatically go to glass blowing. There's a lot of layering involved in kiln formed kind of fused glass, like connecting pieces, correct? Or
yeah. So like you say, a lot of people think glass blowing, and that's where you just reach into a big old furnace full of molten glass and pull it out and start, playing with the hot stuff. With kiln form glass, we really only do cold. There are some instances where you play with hot glass, but generally we just manipulate cold glass. So we'll get sheets of glass or big chunks of glass and arrange that in the kiln in a certain way to create patterns and to create different techniques. Stack it high and let it flow, or cut out specific shapes and pieces depending on what you want to do. And then you put that in the kiln. Kiln cranks up to 1500 degrees where the glass then becomes liquid. So you've got heat and gravity working for you. and it will do hopefully what you want it to do in there. And then you cool it back down. And then once you pull it out, then you can do what's called cold working, where you grind it or polish it or do more finish work from there. But that's sort of the difference is generally speaking, we don't manipulate hot glass in the kiln form world. Some people reach in there and do a little bit of bending and twisting while it's hot, but then you close the kiln and walk away, let it do the work for you.
I would imagine you're kind of inspired by living in Hawaii, but you also put on your website, inspired by the flow of water, of lava, the flow of ideas. You definitely see some sort of sea creatures of sorts. Is that something that like you created forms for these pieces, or is it like, is this fused glass for you ever changing, or always creating sort of functional pieces, or how do you work through it? Creative process, I guess. I just asked like 7 questions, so figure that out. Just make something up.
I don't have answers for any of it. I don't know. Yeah, like obviously being in Hawaii, you're definitely inspired by what's around you. You've got volcanoes popping, you've got, waves lapping up on the beach. So there's a lot of inspiration just in that. And flow too is, I took a workshop early on that sort of utilized flow in glass, where you stack it up high, because glass wants to be at it's got surface tension. It wants to be about a 1/4 inch thick. If you just melt a big pile of glass and let it be as flat as it wants to. So you can manipulate that. So if you stack things higher, then it's going to want to flow, and it flows from the top, not the bottom. So you can start playing with that to get really cool patterns and textures in a piece of glass. So that's where the flow kind of came from. And obviously being next to flowing water and flowing lava, you can play with that in some cool ways. And then I started getting more into casting, more sculptural type things, where you do make a sculpture either in clay or wax, and then you make molds around that, and then you fill those up with glass. I am a little bit limited. I have a smaller kiln, so I can't do, big, tall things yet. Soon, the time is near. So I've been having fun playing with that. And really part of it too is just pushing myself. What can I do in that smaller kiln? It's not a big, tall thing. So how can I make that do what I want to in smaller form? So that's kind of cool.
How long does this process take? It sounds like you have some casts, so I imagine you do potentially multiple at a time. But is it a relatively fast process?
Well, to do a basic fused piece, it's about a day in the kiln, 24 hours, because it's got to ramp up slowly so you don't shatter the glass while it's still solid.
Oh, interesting.
And then when it cools back down, as it switches from a liquid back to a solid, that's called the annealing phase. And the thicker the glass, the slower that has to go, so that the glass can all, reform into a solid at once. So if you're doing a piece that's 1 inch thick, that's going to have to sit for like 4 hours and then cool down over another 4 or 6 hours. So that process alone can take a longer period of time when you're working in thick pieces. So I put a piece in, or a couple of pieces in last night, or yesterday afternoon. I started the kiln, I think about 3 in the afternoon. And it was going all night, and then it will go all day today. And it should probably around 5 or 6 a.m. the firing will be done. So depending on the type of work you're doing, it can be a 1-day thing or a 2 or 3 day thing. And if you get really thick, then it can be, there are artists that have stuff in the kiln for a month because it has to cool off so slowly. But I'm not there.
So also just like checking this out, and I'm sure it's kind of a layered process, the fusing of glass, of course. That's how you work in the color, right? Because I just kind of wonder, like you said, it has similarities to pottery when they kind of brush that on and you kind of see what you get at the end. Is that how it works with glass? Is it just multicolor, or is there some sort of additions to it? Or
glass has become a lot more accessible over the last 30, 40 years. So now there are companies that make fusible glass. Bullseye is the biggest supplier, and they use them. And they have sheet glass in many, 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 many colors. So you can do a lot of that just straight off the shelf in terms of color. But then you can also paint with it too. There are enamels, and you can mix those just like you would with other paint and really get deeper into color. And then you can mix powdered glass too, grind it up, and then different amounts of powder in with clear can do lighter or darker colors. So there's a lot of options when you really get in there.
Well, I just met up with you at the Chamber After Hours event last week. So
shout out Lacrosse Chamber.
Oh yeah, Chamber. Let's go. I know you're kind of like in transition. You're in lacrosse, you're coming for Hawaii. What's coming up for you? You're kind of like slowly getting your work shipped here. What's happening in terms art wise?
Yeah, so when I left the island, I was very fortunate that I'm still in 3 galleries in Hawaii, and they all took what I had on hand. So I didn't have to ship any created glass pieces up here, which is good, but also kind of bad because now I don't have anything to give to local galleries. So I've been cranking out inventory to try and rebuild up stock. I moved to town in early summer, so by then all the registrations were done for the summer art fairs and a lot of the fall stuff too. So I'm going to start to appear in some fairs, but I really like to get into more galleries and just kind of have been exploring what's out there this summer, and it's pretty cool scene.
So it looks like you're also available on Etsy too, right? And also
Yes.
your website. Where's your website at? Where can people find
Website
out?
is ecostudio.com.
So they can
And
pick those up on your website and Etsy?
yeah, and they actually tie together. Etsy does all the back end stuff. So I just linked to that from the website for now.
Lacrosse Local Podcast is a production of River Travel Media. Do you have an interview idea you'd like to share with us? Message us on Facebook at Lacrosse Local. Find out more about us at lacrosselocal.com, and you can subscribe to the Lacrosse Local Podcast on your favorite podcast app. If you like us, rate us 5 stars. We appreciate it.